Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really undertaking something quite profound. We're diving into some powerful source material.
That's right. We're looking at the verses of the Gita referred in the text, specifically where Lord Krishna is speaking directly to Arjuna.
And the aim is trying to relieve Arjuna from, well, from suffering, from that paralysis he feels.
And the promise made right at the start, I mean, it's huge. Krishna calls it the most secret wisdom.
The most secret, yeah. And he says, basically, if you get this, if you truly understand it, you're immediately relieved from the miseries of material existence.
It's an incredible claim. So our mission today really is to unpack that. Why is this knowledge supposedly superior to, well, everything else? And why the paradox? Why is it so secret if it's offered openly?
That paradox is exactly what grabbed me. Because the text, it uses these really striking terms for this wisdom, doesn't it?
It really does.
Verse 9.2 calls it the greatest secret, the most sacred. And here's the kicker. It says it's directly attainable.
Directly attainable, yes, and unopposed to Dharma.
What does that mean exactly, unopposed to Dharma?
Well, it means it fits perfectly with, universal moral duties, cosmic order, righteous living. It's not some weird fringe idea.
Okay, so it's mainstream in that sense.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then it adds, it's very easy to pursue, and it's imperishable. It lasts forever.
So you put all that together. Greatest secret, sacred, directly attainable, fits with morality, easy to do, and permanent.
Uh-huh.
The question just screams out, right? If the answer to suffering is right there and it's easy, why isn't everyone doing it? Why are we all still, struggling?
Precisely. That's the core tension we need to explore.
Especially now. I mean, think about scientific knowledge today. It's exploding. We're editing genes, building AI, understanding the universe's history.
Incredible advancements, no doubt.
But this ancient text, the source material, claims this spiritual wisdom is superior even to all of that. How can that be?
Well, according to the text, the difference really boils down to permanence and ultimate fulfillment. There were essentially 4 key reasons laid out for why this knowledge of God is considered supreme.
Let's take them one by one. So permanence first. How does that contrast with science?
Well, think about it. Scientific knowledge, any knowledge about the material world, it changes, right? It gets updated, sometimes completely overturned.
Sure. Physics theories evolve, medical advice changes.
Exactly. Because the material world is itself always changing, always in flux. So the knowledge about it can't be permanent.
Makes sense.
But the knowledge of God, as presented here, is about the ultimate unchanging reality. So that knowledge itself is permanent. It doesn't become obsolete.
Okay, that's a powerful distinction. What's the second reason? You mentioned it reveals reality.
Yes. And this one is maybe the most mind-bending. The idea is that once you grasp this supreme knowledge, all other knowledge, science, history, everything is seen for what it is. Part of the realm of illusion.
Illusion. Like, none of it is real. Our science isn't real.
Not quite like unreal in the sense of non-existent. It's more like, think of a movie projected onto a screen.
Yeah.
The movie, the story, the characters, they're real within the context of the movie. But the screen, that's the underlying reality that allows the movie to even appear.
I see.
This supreme knowledge reveals the screen, the foundation. So the world, our scientific discoveries, they still function, they're still there, but you see them as transient phenomena playing out on this permanent underlying reality.
So my work understanding, say, biology is still valuable, but it's valuable within the movie, not the ultimate truth itself.
You've got it. It puts everything else into perspective.
Third reason, you said fulfillment.
Yes, intellectual fulfillment. Think about any field of study. You can spend a lifetime becoming an expert, right? But is the seeking ever truly done? There's always more data, more research, another layer of complexity.
Well, that's the nature of research.
But this knowledge, the claim is it actually quenches that thirst for knowing completely.
Wow.
Because you've understood the fundamental reality, the source of everything, the seeking justing.
Well, to feel intellectually complete, that's a huge promise.
It is. And that leads to the 4th point, the ultimate outcome. It enables truly joyful living.
This is the theme park and picnic idea mentioned in the source.
Exactly. Think about a theme park. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, right? Management, logistics, maintenance.
Of course.
But for the person enjoying the park, it's ideally effortless fun, pure enjoyment. That's the analogy. Most knowledge helps us fix problems, treat symptoms of suffering.
Right, like medicine treats illness.
But this knowledge, allegedly, removes the root cause of the problems altogether. It addresses the fundamental misunderstanding that leads to suffering in the first place, so you can live joyfully, like being at a picnic, regardless of the external ups and downs.
That image of effortless joy. Okay, that really highlights the paradox again. If that's the payoff, and it's supposedly easy to pursue, why on earth is it called the most secret wisdom? Why aren't we all lining up?
Yeah, it seems contradictory, doesn't it? We need to think about how knowledge usually spreads.
Okay,
Take a scientific fact, like the Earth revolving around the sun. Centuries ago, that was, a dangerous secret known only to a few who did complex calculations.
right. Galileo got into trouble for it.
Exactly. But today, any kid in primary school knows it. The effort needed for later generations to grasp that specific fact becomes minimal.
The knowledge gets democratized. You read the textbook, you don't have to redo all the original astronomy yourself.
Precisely. But the knowledge of God, according to this text, it just doesn't work that way. It can't be passed on like a textbook fact.
Why not?
Because the truth might be openly available, written down even, but each individual has to personally walk the entire path of discovery.
This is where your PhD analogy comes in, right?
Exactly. Think about getting a doctorate. You can read every single PhD thesis ever submitted in your field. You can memorize every theory, understand all the arguments.
Sure, become incredibly knowledgeable about the research.
But can you claim you have a PhD just from reading? No. You have to do the work yourself. The original research, the struggle, the discovery process, it's intensely personal and non-transferable.
You can't just absorb someone else's realization. You have to realize it for yourself.
That's the key. The effort cannot be delegated or borrowed. And the source points out, while the truth itself is always there, the number of people who've actually achieved this realization, the masters, is probably far, far smaller than the number of PhDs in the world.
So the secrecy isn't about hidden texts, it's about the immense personal effort required for genuine understanding.
That's a huge part of it. The door is open, but walking through it requires a specific kind of readiness.
Okay, so let's dig into those hurdles then. What stops people? If the knowledge is there, what are the internal, maybe, disqualifiers? What prevents us from grasping what God truly means in this context?
Well, the first barrier mentioned is perhaps surprisingly related to intelligence, but not just raw IQ.
How so?
It's more about the capacity for subtle perception. Most people have a concept of God, right? Often quite simple, maybe anthropomorphic.
Sure, a man with a beard in the sky, or just a vague force.
Exactly. The text uses an analogy, the word cost. Anyone understands cost as, the price tag on something.
Right, how much money I pay.
But a highly qualified accountant, they understand cost on a much deeper, more subtle level opportunity cost. Depreciation, amortization, intrinsic value, layers of meaning.
Okay. So most of us have a layperson understanding of God, but lack the refined perception to grasp the full, intricate meaning, the meaning that connects us to the universe.
That seems to be the idea. It's the first filter, and then come the moral and ethical prerequisites.
This is where it gets tough. The text says the process can start with anyone, but only the qualified will finish. And the disqualifiers are quite common.
Very common. The text lists qualities it calls evil, which act as major roadblocks.
Things like lust, anger, hatred, vengeance, greed.
Arrogance, pride, jealousy.
Yes. How do those specific qualities block understanding the divine? It's not immediately obvious.
Well, think about what those qualities do to your mind and attention. If you're consumed by greed or lust, where is your focus?
Outward. On getting things, on sense objects, people.
Exactly. Your intelligence is directed entirely outward into the movie, the illusion. There's no energy left, no inclination to turn inward for the kind of deep introspection this knowledge requires.
And things like pride or arrogance.
They directly reinforce the ego, the sense of being a separate, independent self. But this supreme knowledge is all about realizing your fundamental interdependence with the cosmos, your connection to the divine.
So arrogance basically screams, I am independent, while the knowledge whispers you are interconnected. They're fundamentally opposed.
Precisely. These qualities create a powerful internal resistance. They lock the mind into a materialistic view, making it almost impossible to even consider the spiritual perspective seriously.
It feels like a built-in failure mechanism for many people.
It can certainly seem that way. And then there's another hurdle. Faith. Specifically, faith before you get proof.
How does that work?
The descriptions of God, of ultimate reality that you find in the scriptures, They often seem to fly in the face of our direct, everyday experience of the world, right? The world feels chaotic, random, often painful.
Yeah, it doesn't always feel like there's a benevolent underlying reality.
Exactly. And unlike science, where you can say, look through a telescope to verify something about planets, you can't verify these spiritual truths with material instruments, at least not at first.
So you have to start the journey based on
Yep.
trusting the source, believing it's possible even when it contradicts your experience.
Yes. You need a willingness to engage, to explore, despite the apparent contradictions. The text suggests the real problem isn't a lack of information being available. It's the deep-seated, preconceived notion that knowing God in this profound way is simply impossible. So people don't even try seriously.
Or maybe they only turn to it when things get really bad.
That's another point the text touches on. Many treat God like a sort of spiritual painkiller. You use it when you're suffering, but as soon as the crisis passes...
You forget about it and go back to regular life.
Right, which leads directly into the next hurdle. The sheer attraction of the world itself.
Attraction.
Massive distraction. People get so caught up in pursuing sense objects, pleasures, career goals, relationships, the immediate, tangible stuff.
The movie is very compelling.
Incredibly compelling. So deep spiritual practice often gets pushed off. It becomes a post-retirement affair, something you'll maybe get around to later.
The later often never comes, or the motivation isn't there anymore.
Exactly. The urgency is missing because the material world offers constant, albeit temporary, rewards. Why bother with difficult introspection today when that new gadget or promotion promises happiness right now?
It's a constant battle for attention.
Okay.
So wait, we have intelligence, moral purity, faith, avoiding distraction. What else? Is there an ego hurdle beyond just arrogance?
Yes, a big one. The text suggests people actively avoid this knowledge because truly knowing God involves understanding the deep connection between yourself, the individual soul, and the universal consciousness.
And why avoid that? Sounds profound.
Because ultimately it means realizing you're not this totally independent, separate entity you think you are. It involves a kind of dissolution of the ego's boundaries.
And people are afraid to lose their ego, their sense of self.
Deeply afraid. Even if that ego is the source of suffering, it's familiar. Letting go of that separate identity is terrifying for most.
So even if someone overcomes the other hurdles, they're smart, ethical, faithful, focused, they might still balk at this final step.
It's a major stumbling block. And then even if you're ready for all that, there's one more quite practical hurdle.
Which is?
Finding a qualified teacher.
Right. You mentioned this earlier. Even with the scriptures, the Vedas, readily available.
You still need guidance. The text is clear. You need a teacher who is not only learned, someone who knows the scriptures inside out,
Right.
but someone who is also enlightened, someone who has personally realized the truth they're teaching.
And finding someone like that
Is exceptionally rare. So even though the instructions might be printed in books, the practical access to the understanding remains hidden, secret in a way, because the guides are so few and far between.
That rarity of the teacher really leads us to the path itself. If the books are there, but the teacher is key and hard to find. Once you do find such a master, how do you actually acquire this wisdom from them?
Well, the source is very specific about how not to get it first.
Okay.
It explicitly rules out the two most common ways we gain knowledge or skills today. First, you can't just buy it. Paying money doesn't grant you this understanding.
No tuition fees for enlightenment?
Apparently not. And second, you can't get it simply by intellectual exchange, debating, discussing ideas, exchanging knowledge for knowledge. That's not the path either.
So, if it's not money, and it's not just talking about it,
Right.
what's left? The text says the only way is by rendering service.
Yes, rendering service to the enlightened master.
Okay, let's unpack that for someone listening today.
Yeah.
Does service mean you have to, quit your job, move into an ashram, and wash the guru's feet? Is it that literal?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? It can involve things like that historically, but service here primarily implies a deep commitment of your time, your effort, your sincerity.
Right.
It's about demonstrating humility, loyalty, and a genuine desire to learn by dedicating yourself, your mental energy, your focus to following the teacher's instructions and absorbing the teaching.
So it's less about specific chores and more about the attitude and the dedication.
Exactly. It requires you to subordinate your own ego, to trust the process, and to make a significant, sustained commitment that, frankly, most people find very difficult to integrate into a modern life with jobs and families.
It competes directly with worldly priorities.
It absolutely does. It demands a radical shift in focus.
And assuming someone makes that commitment, finds that rare teacher, establishes that relationship through service.
Mm-hmm.
What's the actual process of learning then?
The source describes a clear three-step process. First, listening. Deep, attentive, patient listening to the teachings from that qualified teacher.
Just taking it all in.
Yes. Second, introspection. This is crucial. You have to reflect deeply on what you've heard. Mull it over, question it, ensure you've understood it correctly, resolve your own internal doubts and conflicts about it.
So it's not passive listening, it's active reflection.
Very active. And third, inner transformation. This comes through dedicated practice, usually involving meditation techniques taught by the master, to internalize the truths and actually change your consciousness.
Listen, reflect, transform through practice.
That's the path outlined.
And if someone follows this demanding path, what's the final result? What's the ultimate benefit that was promised right back at the beginning?
The promise is fulfilled. Direct perception of God. Not just belief, not just intellectual understanding, but actual direct personal experience of that ultimate reality.
Can you give an example of direct versus indirect?
Sure. Indirect knowledge is like reading a detailed travel guide about, say, the Grand Canyon. You read about the geology, the dimensions, the colors, you see pictures.
You know a lot about it.
Exactly. But direct knowledge, that's standing on the rim yourself, feeling the scale, seeing the light change, experiencing the immensity firsthand.
Okay. Experiential knowledge.
Precisely. This spiritual path isn't just about learning about God. It promises the ability to perceive that reality directly, to make it a living, practical, personal truth. It transforms the concept into experience.
So wrapping this up, we've really explored the central tension from the verses of the Gita we looked at. On one hand, you have this knowledge described as permanent, incredibly fulfilling, the ultimate solution, and even, paradoxically, easy to pursue.
Right, all those amazing qualities.
But on the other hand, it remains the greatest secret, not because it's hidden away in a vault, but because accessing it requires overcoming these profound internal barriers. The need for subtle intelligence, high moral conduct, unwavering faith, focus against distraction, and crucially, the humility to learn through service from a rare, enlightened teacher, and ultimately, the willingness to let go of the ego.
Exactly. The barriers are internal, not external. And the stakes, according to the text, are incredibly high. We should probably end by remembering the final instruction given in these verses, verse 9.3.
What does this say?
Krishna delivers a stark warning to Arjuna. He says, essentially, those who have no faith in this teaching, meaning those who lack that initial willingness to even embark on this path because it seems impossible or it contradicts their current view, they will undoubtedly continue in the cycle of birth and death. They won't attain that ultimate fulfillment.
A powerful, sobering thought. It really leaves us, and you, the listener, with something to reflect on. If this kind of wisdom truly holds the key to removing the root cause of suffering, not just the symptoms, what are we spending our energy on every day? What actions, what goals are we prioritizing that we think are solving our problems but might just be, rearranging the furniture in a burning house? What stands out to you personally as the biggest obstacle? Maybe ego, maybe distraction, maybe that lack of initial faith on your own path towards ultimate fulfillment. Something to think about.